Now, joining me live to talk about the ongoing situation in Iran is author and speaker, as well as activist, Parmida Barez. Parmida, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning, a morning where we're finding out word now that a second young protester has been executed. When you heard that news, your reaction, especially coming off the fact that the first person was executed last week?
Thank you so much for having me today. All of us are absolutely sick to our stomachs this morning, not only after hearing, but actually seeing the release footage of 22-year-old Majid Reza Rahnavard being publicly hung. He was the second protester executed, yes, you're correct, in the last few days for, quote unquote, waging war against God. No due process, no access to a lawyer, no jury, forced to confess under severe psychological and physical torture. There were photos of his sustained injuries before he was executed. He was sentenced, like many others, in a 10-minute speedy sham trial. And unfortunately, there are 18,000 protesters, including children, being severely tortured as we speak and potentially awaiting a similar fate.
And that's the thing as well. There is this concern that the death penalty will be wielded against all 18,000 prospectively, or, just perhaps it may be something that will hit all of these protesters who have been trying to raise awareness as they go against this regime. Is there an end in sight? Because that's one thing. We talk about two people who have been executed now after the death of Mahsa Amini, and it just seems like there is no end to what could potentially be a mass execution of thousands of protesters.
And you're right. We've been ringing the alarm for a very long time now. The Islamic Republic sees itself above the rule of law, and it has since its inception. The regime is no stranger to mass executions. In 1988, they extrajudicially executed, it said, anywhere from 5,000 to 30,000 political prisoners, ethnic minorities, dissidents. In 2019 alone, we recall in an internet blackout, in around 5 days, they murdered 1,500 innocent protesters. In the last 3 months alone, this regime has killed 500 people on the streets, including 70 children, not to mention thousands blinded, maimed, raped, kidnapped. And, anyone opposing this leadership essentially is waging war against God, and they've held the Iranian people captive for the last 44 years. The Iranian people, like you said, want an end to this regime. They want life, liberty, democracy, a secular state, the freedom of speech, expression, religion, gender equality that we all so much enjoy. And, the most important thing that we can do in the diaspora now as citizens is to put significant political pressure on our governments to cut ties with this terrorist state. There are petitions, ready-made email templates to send out to politicians and news channels regarding expelling ambassadors, kicking the Islamic Republic off of any sort of international forum, enforcing sanctions, saying no to any negotiation of deals such as the JCPOA, to seize and repurpose assets of the IRGC and their family members who live so comfortably and lavishly on our soil with blood money, and to repurpose those assets to fund victims. Canada has taken, good first steps in sanctioning 10,000 IRGC members, but Canada needs to list the IRGC in its entirety as a terrorist organization. And, in 2018, the House of Commons passed the motion unanimously to list the IRGC as a terrorist organization, yet no action has been taken. And Canada has great influence on its neighboring countries and G7 countries, and we're asking for Canadians to put pressure on other countries to have their embassies shut down, expel their ambassadors, recall their own. And, who's to say that the Islamic Republic won't be knocking on our doors next? They are an international security threat. And they commit war crimes. They supply drones and weapons. They are allies with countries like Russia. They've been funding terrorism for years. Many RGC members and their families, like I said, they live with laundered money on our soil, living off of our resources, threatening Canadians. Not to say when they shot down flight PS 752 and they killed 55 Canadians. It's time to really draw the hard red lines.
How does the videos and the images that you're seeing on social media, because we are seeing a lot of it now, especially this go around, and does that help in getting the message out there, but also getting more of a response here in Canada and in other Western nations to put that pressure on their governments to cut ties with Iran?
Absolutely. In the last 3 months, we literally have footage of all of these sadistic crimes of this mafia state. And essentially the Islamic Republic hates being under the watchful eye. And social media has been such a powerful tool, not only to amplify voices, but to spread this footage that Iranians risk their lives to upload. And we need to really be amplifying the voices, the true voices of Iranians inside Iran who are asking for regime change, not any reformist, not anything regarding merely loosening of laws, complete regime change. The people of Iran are fighting for democracy, for human rights, for a secular state. Anything other than that narrative is not a reflection of the Iranian people.
What can Canadians do here on our side of the world? I know that the protests, we've seen them here in the GTA yesterday at Yonge Dundas Square and at Queen's Park, as well as just a few weeks ago, a massive protest in Richmond Hill had 50,000 people out there. Does that help? And what else can Canadians do to contribute to raising awareness of this?
Absolutely. Everything helps, because what message we're sending to the Islamic Republic is we will not turn our backs. They need to see that we are all banding together. Protesting helps. Calling your politicians help. Posting, tweeting helps. Signing the petitions. And it's because of these things that we have, for example, as of late, a UN fact-finding mission. And hopefully in the next 2 days, there will be a vote to expel the Islamic Republic from the UN Women's Rights Commission. So everything helps. We need to keep our eyes on Iran.
All right, Parmida, thank you so much once again for making the time to join us this morning. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, that is Parmida Barez, activist and speaker, as well as an author here, talking about the current situation in Iran.